Welcome to another true crime story time, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. I am so tired of doing this intro, but you guys seem to love it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Today's case has it all: doctors, drugs, jealousy, and unfortunately, murder. So grab a snack, maybe not spaghetti, because there's a little bit of stabbing going on. Friendly reminder, the comment section is a privilege. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. In celebration of the new Wicked movie coming out in November, I've decided to do a little nod to some of the characters in the movie. This week I'm going to be doing my girl Elphaba, because girl, you know we got to do Elphaba. And next week we're going to probably do Gwendola. Is it Gwend? It's not Gwendola. Listen. It was so funny in the movie. They were all trying to get her name right, and they kept confusing Glenda with Galinda. And girl, I've been calling her Gwendola this entire time. I mean, this entire time. I cannot wait to see the movie. I even painted my nails in Essie's Wicked, so I'm so excited. On the evening of October 5th, 2004, pediatric ophthalmologist Dr. David Brian Stidham was giving a lecture to University of Arizona medical students at his private practice in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Dr. Stidham, he was kind of a dream doctor. Born in Texas, super smart, Harvard educated. I mean, if you saw this man's education history and his resume, you would be amazed. Like, honestly, he could have been a surgeon, but he really liked ophthalmology and he wanted to work with children. He actually specialized in pediatric ophthalmology, which is just a fancy way of saying he fixed kids' eyes. He loved working with children and he was good at it, like really, really good at it. Patients loved him. He wore funny hats for the kids. He even took night calls. Basically the kind of doctor you hope you get instead of Dr. Google at 3 a.m. in the morning. So Dr. Stidham wrapped his lecture around 7 that evening, locked up, and started heading to his car. Pretty normal, right? Wrong. But as he was walking up to his vehicle, somebody struck him from behind. But it doesn't stop there. This person starts stabbing him. Fast forward about 3 hours later, around 10:30 p.m., 911 dispatch receives a call from an anonymous caller. They say that they spotted a man lying on the ground right in the middle of the parking lot. He wasn't moving. They said it was papers scattered everywhere, that they could see his glasses laying near him. Operators traced that call back to none other than Dr. Stidham's office parking lot. First responders rush to the scene. They do everything that they can. Unfortunately, it's too late. Dr. Stidham had been gone for hours. When crime scene investigators show up, they're faced with this brutal and honestly confusing scene. Nothing made sense at first, but slowly, piece by piece, they began putting things together. Here's what they found. They found Dr. Stidham's scrub top had been slashed up, and he had a large gaping wound in his upper chest region, like collard line. There was a trail of blood leading from his body back to where his parking space was. His glasses were on the ground nearby. There was paperwork scattered on the ground like there had been some type of struggle. But the biggest thing was that his car was missing from its parking space. Was this a robbery? Like, what's going on? Now here's the kicker. His wallet and cash were still there. So police are like, okay, this wasn't a robbery. Somebody was out for blood. Somebody wanted him dead. On the opposite side of the parking lot from where Dr. Stidham's body was found, investigators spotted a piece of pizza crust just lying there on the ground. At first glance, it looked random, but then they ran a DNA test, and guess what? It was Dr. Stidham's. Turns out that earlier that evening at the lecture, pizza was served. Y'all, I don't know if this looks better or worse, but how did the pizza end up so far from his body? Investigators came up with a pretty good theory. They believe that Dr. Stidham was walking to his car, hands full of paperwork and pizza. The huge. As he got to his car, he probably set the slice of pizza on the roof so that he could open the door. Many of us have done this plenty of times, especially if we had some sort of drink in our hand, like a coffee or something. You set it on top of the car to open the door. That's when the attacker snuck up, struck him from behind, hitting him in the back of the head. When Dr. Stidham turned around, the assailant attacked him with a knife, stabbing him before stealing his car. As the killer drove away, the pizza must have flew off the roof and landed on the opposite side of the parking lot. It's morbid, but that little slice of pizza ended up being like a silent witness to this crime. A tiny detail, but it helped investigators piece together those final moments of Dr. Stidham's life. So here's where things get tricky for investigators. There were no eyewitnesses, and the security cameras, of course, were not working because we can't have working security cameras at a time like this. Where are the security cameras when you need the security? Investigators had their work cut out for them. The first order of business on their list was to notify Dr. Stidham's wife, Daphne, of his death. So they go to Dr. Stidham's house and they knock on the door, but they don't get an answer. They knock a couple more times and it's just absolute silence. Nobody's coming to the door. Nobody's answering back. It's like nobody's home. But they knew that she was. After repeated attempts with no response, they finally kicked the door in. Inside, they find Daphne asleep in bed. The phone is unplugged. There's cops standing in her bedroom and she's straight up knocked out. There's sleeping pills on the nightstand, and then there's like personal medical documents laying out as well. It was like walking into a whole scene that made no sense. Or did it? When Daphne woke up, she was in full panic mode. The first thing she asked was, has someone shot my husband? Babe, that's a red flag. I think that's a red flag. Detectives thought, well, that's an odd thing to ask. They didn't even have the chance to mention anything about his death. Police then escorted Daphne and the couple's 2 children down to the morgue and eventually to the police station for questioning. The autopsy report painted a horrific picture. Dr. Stidham had been stabbed up to 15 times and his skull was fractured. Investigators looked at the brutality of the attack and immediately thought that this was not random. It was personal. But here's the thing, it also looked staged. Like the killer wanted it to look like a carjacking gone wrong. While searching for Dr. Stidham's car, they realized something else was missing, his cell phone. Had the killer taken it? Just another layer of mystery that detectives had to unravel. Oh, that was like going with the wind, honey. Maybe Dr. Stidham's cell phone could lead them somewhere. First, they tried calling it, nothing. Then they thought, wait a minute. If we could trace it, maybe it could lead us to the car and possibly the killer. So they pinged it. Quick side note, pinging basically means sending a signal to the phone to figure out which cell tower it's connected to. And that way they can trace the phone and everything like that. It's basically like a digital game of hot and cold. And sure enough, they got a hit. The cell phone pinged off of a tower about 6 miles away. Detectives head out and find Dr. Stidham's car parked at an apartment complex. Inside, on one of the seats, his cell phone. But that wasn't all. On the outside of the car, they found blood spatter. Inside of the door well, they found even more blood. Cast-off stains to be exact. The kind you get when a weapon is swung back during an attack. Sometimes my skin does really well with foundation, and sometimes it's like, F you, I'm not doing it today. Okay, we gotta get the neck because it ain't adding up. I'm looking like Ronald McDonald over here. More like Big Bird, actually. Now, all of this evidence told investigators something chilling. The fact that there was cast-off stains in the door well told investigators that the car door was most likely open when the attack occurred. According to law enforcement, this is what they call a blitz attack. It's basically when someone comes at you so fast, so violently that you don't really have time to react. It's usually over before the victim even realizes what's happening. So forensic investigators go over Dr. Stidham's car with a fine-tooth comb, honey. They are not playing games. If there was any speck of evidence, they were going to find it. What did they find? Well, they pretty much just found fibers and hairs that belonged to members of the Stidham family, which makes sense. I mean, after all, it was their car, and his wife and kids would have been in it at some point. But here's the thing, they found nothing else. No foreign fingerprints, no foreign fibers, nothing. No smoking gun, no physical evidence tying anyone else to the car at all, which obviously made investigators' job much harder. So at this point, investigators have basically hit a wall with the evidence. No eyewitness, no working cameras, and no physical evidence from the car. So they decided to turn to the people who knew Dr. Stidham the best. His friends, family members, and colleagues. They was hoping that they could maybe help them find the answers. They pretty much questioned everyone and anyone who knew him. They wanted to find out if Dr. Stidham had any known enemies. But everyone said no. Dr. Stidham was well-liked, well-respected amongst his peers, that they didn't know anyone who would have wanted him dead. But then they talked to Daphne, and she had a different story. And she identifies an old colleague turned rival of her husband's, a Dr. Bradley Schwartz. Now, y'all, we about to get into it about this doctor, because this man. She told investigators that Schwartz had held a grudge against her husband for many years, and she urged them to look into him. So detectives run a background check on Dr. Schwartz, and this is what they find. Dr. Stidham and Dr. Schwartz first crossed paths back in 2001. That's when Stidham moved to Tucson with his wife and son. Now, Stidham, he wasn't just moving for a job, he loved Tucson. According to his wife, Daphne, he had told her that he fell in love with the West, the sunsets, the sunrises, the cacti, all of it. He said he knew that they would stay. So he replies to an ad from Schwartz and joins his practice, Arizona Specialty Eye Care, in November of 2001. The plan was for Stidham to take over the pediatric ophthalmology department for Schwartz's clinic. At first, everything seemed fine, but clearly this partnership was doomed for failure. Now let's talk about the other doctor in this story, Dr. Schwartz. On paper, Schwartz was immaculate, perfect, very successful. In reality, though, he was a mess. A hot, stinking mess. We're talking drug problems, legal problems, personal drama, relationships, just like the whole 9, 10, 11, 12, 18 yards. Okay, this man was deep. In the late 90s, he moved his entire family from Pennsylvania down to Tucson for what seemed like a amazing job opportunity. A Phoenix-based ophthalmology group had hired him to open a different location in Tucson. I mean, that's amazing. He was basically going to be running his own location. Now, how did he mess this up? Because we know he did. I know y'all be telling me to stop talking so much in my videos. Like, I'm trying, girl. I'm really trying. I promise. I'm trying. Okay. It's just whenever I get in front of the camera, I just turn into like a different person. I'm like a clown. I'm so sorry. Well, not even a year later, Schwartz's contract expires, and he turns around and opens his own practice 20 yards away from this ophthalmology group that he was working for. I mean, sir, that's not even competition. That's basically setting up shop in your neighbor's backyard. That's what you're doing. You're setting up shop in your neighbor's backyard. No, unprofessional at the very least. You couldn't go up the street, my dude. You couldn't go around a couple blocks down, a couple blocks in a town. Naturally, the Phoenix group was not having it. They sued him for violating his contract. You know, that little thing called a restrictive covenant. Yeah. The whole thing got settled out of court, but the Phoenix group did not hold back their thoughts and feelings about Dr. Schwartz. Like, they laid into him. They let the court know their thoughts and their opinions, okay? They gave the court the tea. They described his behavior as obscene, abusive, and belligerent. Ouch. Not exactly how you want your former colleagues talking about you. Let's back it up a bit, because Dr. Schwartz, this man was a walking red flag in a lab coat. From 2001 to 2004, he was dating Lourdes Solomon Lopez. Lourdes wasn't just anyone, she was a Pima County deputy attorney and the foster mom of one of his patients. No shame, baby, no shame, no shame. These people ain't got no shame. Can we bring healthy shame back, please? Okay? There is a healthy version of shame, I promise you guys, and we need to start bringing it back because people are they out there. And she wasn't the only parent of a patient that he had inappropriate relations with. He had been with various women in the office at that. Now, here's where it gets messy. I mean, it's been messy, but here's where it really gets messy. Schwartz had developed a pretty serious drug problem. It started back in 2000 when he was prescribed Vicodin for a chronic back and jaw pain. Yeah, a doctor strung out on study drugs and painkillers. Over the summer of 2001, things went full illegal. Full illegal. Okay? Lourdes, his girlfriend slash attorney, whatever, let him use her name to fill fake prescriptions for hydrocodone. Schwartz also dragged his office manager, Lori Espinoza, into the mess, writing prescriptions in her name so she could pick them up and then give them to him. It didn't take long for the DEA to know something was up. They're like, something is fishy. This, much like my makeup skills. In October of 2001, they interviewed Lori as part of the investigation. And despite them specifically telling her not to tell Schwartz about it, guess what she did within 24 hours? You guessed it. She told Schwartz. She told her boyfriend. Fast forward to December of 2001, and Schwartz's office gets raided by the DEA. I mean, this is around the time that Stidham had started. In fact, he started in October or something like that. So he'd already only been there for like 2 months before his now business partner's office is getting raided. I can only imagine his thoughts. Like, it's time to go, babes. It's time to go. Girl, trying to take me out. I gotta take a little sip out of my brand new mug from my own web shop. Officially available on mysterymusestore.com if you're interested. And if you're not, screw you. No, I'm just kidding. Go check it out anyway. By September of 2002, things hit the fan. He was slapped with a 77-count indictment for writing bogus drugs with Lori and Lourdes. Oh, and on top of that, his wife did file for divorce right after this. Can't really blame her. Schwartz tried to play the legal game. At first, he pleaded guilty in 2003, but then withdrew that plea in early 2004. Basically, this guy's personal and professional life was unraveling fast. So first, it seemed like Dr. Stidham joining Schwartz's practice was a good move, but it wasn't. Things went downhill pretty quickly after that. The partnership began to unravel almost as soon as Stidham came on board in November of 2001. Now, officially, Dr. Stidham did work for Dr. Schwartz until 2002. I think it was December of 2002. That's when everything kind of blew up with them. You see, around that time, Schwartz had gotten hit with the drug charges. Dr. Stidham gave him his 30-day notice and started planning to open his own practice across town. I mean, at least it was across town. And here's the thing, Stidham did tell friends that Schwartz had been acting weird and that he just wanted to get out of the whole entire situation. He wanted nothing to do with it. So you can already see that something was brewing. By late 2002, Stidham was done. When Stidham left, a lot of patients followed him. Turns out the people liked the friendly, reliable doctor who wore hats to make kids feel comfortable more than the guy dealing drugs and having drama all the time. And Schwartz, he did not take this well at all. He saw Stidham's growing success as a personal betrayal. What has started as a professional relationship had now turned into full-on rivalry, one that was about to get ugly. So things kept spiraling for Schwartz after the indictment. He lost his medical license, went into rehab, and basically watched his entire career go down the drain. And while all of this was happening, Dr. Stidham was still out there building his new practice and recruiting more patients. Schwartz did not take this well. He got angry. He even told his girlfriend, Lourdes Lopez, and a few other friends point blank that he wanted to kill Dr. Stidham. It got so bad that while Stidham was still working for him, he actually asked his parents to fire Stidham for him. Sir, how old are you? This is why you acting out now, isn't it? Because you ain't never grew up. Your parents, really? You're a whole ass doctor with degrees. Even when Schwartz got his license reinstated and started practicing again, they still continued to go to Stidham. That must have stung. Despite Stidham's practice being on the other side of town, they still stuck with him. So that just goes to show what type of a doctor he was. Schwartz became convinced that his former partner was deliberately stealing his clientele. Isn't it kind of ironic, though? Didn't he do the same thing? Well, not even the same thing. He did worse than that. At least Stidham's office was on the opposite side of town. Crazy how things just, come back full circle for you. The jealousy was eating him alive, and everyone around him could see it. Now it's time to go into the palette. Yes, I'm using the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette again. So after going over all of this evidence, investigators realized that they've heard the name Schwartz before. They're like, Schwartz? Wait a second. Yeah, we know this guy. We've heard that name before. Turns out Schwartz had actually been interviewed early on, but he was eliminated as a suspect because he had an alibi for the night of the murder. He was supposedly at a restaurant having dinner with his girlfriend, Lisa, and she backed up his story. The whole evening was corroborated by her. But when detectives spoke with Lisa, a few things raised eyebrows. For one, she told them that the two had met online, and even though they had only been dating for a short time, I think they had gone out like 2 or 3 times, he had asked her to marry him on the second date. I'm sorry. That is just such a walking red flag. Y'all, I know, ladies, I know we want to believe things that's just false. It's just false, okay? No man is doing that. No sane man is doing that. I'm just going to tell you how it is because nobody's going to tell you. Like if you're online, if you're on an app, if I have to get on an app to talk to you and you have to, that's the only way you can find somebody is online, that's a huge red flag for me because that tells me there's something wrong with you. Something is off with you where you can't do things in person. There's something wrong with you in person. That's why you're online. Maybe it's just you not knowing how to date properly, but something is definitely off. Something should have told her this man was off. She continues to say that they were having dinner around 8:30 that evening when Schwartz receives a call from a guy named Bruce, who shows up shortly after that. Now, here's the weird part. Bruce doesn't even order food. He sits down and he starts picking from their plates, which I'm so sorry, y'all. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. Unless you, my man, do not pick from my plates. Like, sir, do you want to keep your fingers? I don't know you. You do not pick from my plate. I don't know what's wrong with people. I'm like, do you have no manners? Your parents didn't teach you, did they? Anyway, let's get back to the story because this man putting his hands in people's food is going to drive me up the wall. Anyway, Schwartz introduces Bruce as a friend of his from, I think he told Lisa that it was a friend of his from rehab. But then Bruce orders a beer, which feels off, right? A rehab buddy and alcohol doesn't really seem like they go together. That's like not the vibe, babes. And then Lisa hears something strange. Schwartz asks Bruce, how did those scrubs work out for you? And Bruce says, they worked out fine. Trying to make conversation, Lisa jumps in. Oh, why were you wearing scrubs? And Bruce casually says he used them for horseback riding. Lisa, who actually knows horses, is like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. Looking back, that conversation gave investigators one of their first real hints about what might have happened that night. So investigators get their hands on Dr. Schwartz's phone records, and this is where things start to get really interesting. About a half an hour before the murder, someone calls Schwartz from a convenience store payphone, just a few feet from Dr. Studham's office. The convenience store clerk remembered the guy who was using the phone because, well, he was wearing scrubs. She said he even made small talk. He told her that he was attending a lecture across the street where they were serving pizza, and he just wasn't in the mood for pizza. You know who else was giving a lecture across the street? But it doesn't stop there. Half an hour after the murder, Schwartz receives another phone call from a payphone. But this time, it was across the street from where Dr. Studham's car was abandoned. 2 payphones, 2 calls, both right before and right after the murder, and both leading right back to Schwartz. So detectives are like, okay, who is this guy, Bruce, and what does he have to do with everything? On a hunch, they asked Schwartz's office staff if he even has a patient named Bruce. Turns out he did. His name was Ronald Bruce Bigger, and he was no stranger to police. Schwartz had actually treated him for an eye surgery for some fight he had been in. We're talking a record full of drug offenses, fraud, and forgery. The whole rap sheet. And at the time, he was on parole. He was also unemployed, didn't own a car, didn't even have a permanent address. Basically, the guy had nothing going for him except a drug habit. The day after the murder, people who knew Bruce said they saw him flashing around a wad of cash the size of a softball, bragging that it was $10,000. Coincidentally, the same day, security cameras at the bank catch Schwartz on camera cashing a check for the same amount, $10,000. Yeah, things are looking real shady. And they're starting to add up real quick. Y'all about to get arrested. With this new information, police got a warrant and arrested Bruce Bigger. When they arrested him, he was on the outskirts of Tucson. Hours later, Dr. Schwartz was arrested also. This is not turning out how I thought. That is awful. Like, that is the worst blend technique I think I've ever done in my entire life. I should have just did a halo eye. I don't know why I was like, oh no, I wouldn't do... I'm gonna do like a cut crease. I don't even know what I said. There was only one problem. Although the circumstantial evidence was strong, they didn't have any scientific evidence or eyewitnesses. It was going to prove quite difficult for prosecutors to get a conviction without anything to show in court. So crime scene investigators revisited Studham's car for any evidence that might help them solve the case. According to forensic scientists, dozens of swabs were analyzed by several different labs. A lot of the samples had no DNA, and the ones that did belonged to the victim and family members of the victim. Just when they were about to lose hope, one of the 60 swabs they had tested came back positive for foreign DNA. Swab LX39. It was taken from the car's air conditioner knob. Their test showed 2 DNA donors with different spikes on the graph. The highest spike was from Dr. Studham. The lower spike came from microscopic skin cells. It was so small that it was barely measurable. However, they were able to generate a partial profile, and from that, they discovered that the DNA belonged to Bruce Bigger. Investigators believe that at some point during transporting the car, Bigger started to sweat. And although he had been meticulous and wore gloves, in that brief moment of human reflex, he wiped his brow before turning on the air conditioner, leaving his DNA behind for forensic scientists to find later. Thanks to forensic science and some great detective work, Ronald Bruce Bigger was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Dr. Bradley Schwartz was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and was sentenced to 25 years minimum. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. Also, YouTube has a new button called the hype button where you can hype your favorite creator. If you like this video and you think that I am very underrated, then please consider clicking the hype button. I'll leave my other episodes up on the screen. Okay, now it is time to hit the hay because it is 12:30. And your girl we ain't doing all that tonight. Okay? Bye.